a little bit late, but Mr. Hartzell is not here, but we have it. All right. So, sorry about doing it earlier, and I don't know where you're going by the time I got here. But if you can run us through the revenue and the expenses and different budgets, I appreciate it.
You have a little bill first.
Oh, you're gonna do the quiz, you haven't quiz the agenda?
That's around December.
Oh, okay, you haven't.
I'll read,
All right. Yes, please, read
I'll read Bill
Bill
86 first. Bill 86 is an ordinance of the council of the city of Allentown, amending ordinance 15246 relating to a 2016 loan from the city's solid waste fund to the city's general fund, authorizing revision of loans repayment schedule back to the solid waste fund by postponing the 2019 payment.
Okay. Anybody from the administration would like to talk a little bit about this one?
Yeah, Barb will talk.
Barb,
Barb Wagner,
Yeah, right. Go ahead, Barb.
There's absence.
The postponement of the payment to the solid waste fund for 2019 has been factored into the 2019 budget. That being said, if we would go ahead and not do it, it would have a effect on our cash balance. Right now, with the 1 year wait, we are looking at a projected surplus of 1.1 million in the general fund. If it is critical for our cash balance that this payment be postponed just by 1 year, we are looking at it to be just a one-time cash hit to the solid waste fund. It still keeps it at, well, actually, that it will still pay it in 7 years, as was originally, I think it was 7 years originally that it was.
Originally, it was seven years, yeah.
7 years, so we'll keep it at the 7 years, it's just postponing it 1 year further.
Of course, it would be 8 years, because it's kind of elongating a 1 year, since we're not paying a million.
Yes, you could look at it that way as well, yes.
It would backfill 1 year.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that your presentation? I personally, I read some of the information that was sent by the solicitor's office, and although we voted for it, and I'm guilty of voting for it back in 2015, since that, and I was reading the recommendation and information that was sent by the memorandum from the law department, the solicitors, I felt that it is something that probably I shouldn't have voted for, quite frankly, back when this happened, and I think Ms. Eichenwald said it best at that time, who was the only dissenting vote. By the way, everybody else in council voted for it as well, except for Councilwoman Eichenwald. And she alluded to the point, and I'm not going to paraphrase everything she said, but she alluded to the point that this will continue to do if we keep using this and transferring this fund that was designated for different cause versus and levy for that cause of the source fund. It would put in an additional burden to the future generations, because it will be continued to be used as such, although and transferred from one account to another, and that's what we're trying to avoid, so we can eventually balance the budget. However, it passed, and we said that we're going to pay it in 7 years. Now we're extending that period to 8 years by not paying it this year, which is already essentially in the budget, and there's not much we can do because it's already in the budget. So unless you open the budget, and I'm not sure how that will happen, to take it out if it's voted down, for example.
Mr. Reed, if I can make a statement. I think the concern would be among council members and probably the public that this becomes a continuous, pattern, okay? And I don't want that to happen. What if council members, the administration, and via the solicitor's office would sign an MOU, memorandum of understanding, that we do it 1 year, and we all, sign off on it, and that's it. And we backfill it, 1 year. Because, I mean, if I was sitting with that, I would have my concerns, are you gonna come next year? Or 2 years, or 3 years, not me, it's anybody, and say, we need another loan, we need another loan, so, that might be something you might wanna consider.
I mean, you and I spoke about that, and quite frankly, and I tend to, I open it up for council discussion. I don't have an objection to it as long as it is signed, sealed, and delivered in a way, and that it is the only time, and it will not be extended ever again, to balance the budget.
Well, I can only speak for myself.
I know, but if you sign it, if we do it in a way, but I know what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, if we do it, that we seal it, we do it that way, that we'll never use it again, that may have an effect. And as opposed to, because you're right, you may not be here 3 years, 4 or 5 years from now. And I just bringing that up for discussion, I'd like to give the opportunity to the member of the committee first, and then anybody else in council who would like to speak up. Anybody?
My concern, I like the idea of an MOU, because otherwise we're gonna be putting $642,000 more on the backs of the citizens. And, which I think already is too much, what we already have put on their backs. So I would be in favor of an MOU, that this would be a once and done, at least for this administration, and going forward at the end of 2019, this would be paid back. Thank you.
Ms. Walter?
I will be in favor of this, but I would like to know, how are we gonna pay this back?
In 2019?
Yes, so if we put this in writing, will we also be put in writing how we're gonna be able to, pay this back?
Well, the revised ordinance is showing that we will continue the payments from the general fund. They would be budgeted in 2020 through 2024 out of the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the dais? Go ahead, Mr. Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would also support doing an MOU. I agree with you, Mr. Greedy, that we need to make sure it's as ironclad as possible. And I would also just state that we would all be putting our names as members of council on a document that would put it to this effect. And the other thing is, even if with next year's election, there would be a turnover of 3 members, you would still have 4 members that have said they won't support doing this again. So even if another administration would come back to us and try to do this in another budget, we would have publicly stated that we won't accept it. So I think that I agree, trying to make the solicitor's office worded as ironclad as possible and move forward on that is the appropriate way to go about doing it. But I think that that's a reasonable suggestion to try and move this forward. And I also think, somewhat to Ms. Moda's point, it might not be a bad idea if, as we move forward with the 5-year financial plan, if specific ways to pay for the loan are identified, so that way we know it's going to come out of cash reserves, or it's coming out of cuts to X number of accounts to make up the fund if we're in a low point of cash reserves due to a recession or an emergency. So I think that having those ideas in place would also help, and maybe we can put that, I don't know if it's feasible or not, but maybe we can look to make that part of the MOU as well.
I don't know how that would be, how they can do that.
No, but I'm just saying that a rough idea.
Finance, yeah. Because every line item, obviously, it's.
No, but what I'm stating is that, the idea is that if we will pay this off using money from the unencumbered balance, but if we're in a situation where the unencumbered balance is not healthy enough to make this payment, we recognize that and we'll make cuts from accounts to make up for it. Instead of coming back to us and saying, oh, well, hey, it's a bad year with a recession, we want to delay this 1 more year. If that makes sense, Mr. Green.
No, it does make sense. I'm just thinking of one account, I can cut 10% across the board.
Well, we were suggesting overtime last week, so there's one we can potentially look at. So, but I just think that, an MOU is a good idea, and I think to Ms. Moda's point, it would be a good idea to look and try and identify exactly how we'll try to pay for it. So, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for making that suggestion.
Anybody else from the dais? If not, we can talk about it in public. Give an opportunity to talk about it.
Appointment Secretary South Allentown. You know, council has to step up to the plate. This should have never been put in there. You're changing something, a proprietary fund should be a proprietary, take the name off of it. Put it in the sausage fund. They should never have done this, never. Somebody, 1, 2, 3, or 4 decided, we're gonna save $600,000, and there's another 400,000 I'll tell you about some other time. This should not have to be up for discussion.
Well, it's already,
By voting on this and delaying it, you're changing the whole concept of what a proprietary fund's for. It's supposed to be used for that particular budget only. If you go back in the years and look at the budget, you're gonna see year after year, and it started with Fed Ed, they kept adding things in. And you see it in the golf fund. Because it's paid separately on your bill. Why do you wanna change this? I'm not here to solve the problem, but take the 600,043 out of the vacancy report. He jacked it up since July, it was 1.5 million.
I'm
Now
trying.
it's 2.5. Don't wanna do that because that eats into the overtime money. Anyway, you've gotta step up to the plate and vote this down. He did you a favor Saturday night, 1 minute before, he left you guys all amend the budget. Now it's your turn. Do what you wanna do.
No,
Can I respond?
Sure.
Mr. Schlesinger, under the third-class city code, city council, via an ordinance, we can transfer money from a restricted account, the solid waste fund, to an unrestricted account within the general fund, requiring the general fund to repay the solid waste fund via loan. So, according to the third-class city code, we can do this.
What was the first part of that? Under third class city
City
code?
code,
As well as
city council.
City council? I'm not arguing what they do. We've seen what Fed Ed did for years. And I can tell you with the documentation that we have, the capital funds, I mean, they're depleted. It's favorite to say, hey, the administration comes up with it, and Fed Ed did the same thing. Well, when the water and sewer, he says, oh, the city council voted for it too, so it must be okay. We're all in this together. It's not okay. It's not okay. You have to do the proper thing. That's what I'm telling you. Don't do it. Go on, do whatever you want. Next year, this budget is not gonna be easier next year. If anyone can tell me it's gonna be easier, show me the numbers. It's not. It's gonna be worse. It's gonna get worse next year.
I agree.
If you're gonna go out for another 1 or 2%, 1 or 2 mil next year, you probably will.
I agree.
You decide, you vote, it's your position, do what you want.
I agree. Is anybody, well, we just, anybody from the public, anybody else? I agree, I think it's, oh, you go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, Lou Schubert, 14 Walnut Street. I have a two-part question concerning this repayment schedule. By postponing it for a year, will this impact the city's bond rating? And part two, will this impact the city's ability to get a loan down the road?
Well, that's a worry, if I may say. If we don't do that, that money will have to be put back into the budget and taken out of the unappropriated balance, our general funds, basically, unappropriated balance, I should say, which is part of the risk management fund. So, and that may affect the bond rate.
Yeah.
That's the only concern that I have, really. Otherwise, I mean, I'll take it out of, if it was me, I would take it out of the, take 10% or 20, 15%, whatever it needs to be, out of the total budget and put that money back in. But the budget belongs to the mayor now.
Right.
It's your budget.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you take the $643,000 out, S&P and Moody's would not be very, pleased with it. at all. It would affect the bond rating.
Anybody else? Go right ahead, Mr. Zuko.
Yeah, my concern is that, well, to be honest with you, we're kind of like, we have no say really in this particular bill, this particular time, because it was part of the budget. The budget's already been put in place by the mayor. Our only option technically is to send them MOU. But I don't think it's a good idea to start not paying your bills. Because next year, what bill don't we pay? And it's just a ripple effect after that. And I agree with you, Mr. Shook, at some point in time, it may not affect the bond rating, but it's gonna definitely affect the interest rate.
And the ability to borrow down the road.
So, but technically, we have no say on this tonight.
I think that's your way. Well, you already voted before, like, you voted on it.
Picked up by his,
So it's a-
by some discussion that you needed to. Because it was
But it's already in the budget.
it's already in the budget, but if you don't pass it, the consent will have to be extracted from the budget. But I mean, that's.
That's correct. If you vote it down, we have to find the money somewhere to pay it up to $643,000.
Do not lower the tax increase?
Can you please speak a little bit loud, because I'm getting confused. What are you guys saying? I believe that the public also wants to know. So why are we voting if we have no say on this, on Bill 86? Why is this, in the agenda?
It was brought to the agenda because I guess after the budget was passed, or not passed, I should say, somebody said that.
An LSR was put into the solicitor's office asking an LSR was put into the solicitor's office asking if we had to deal with the previous ordinance that spelled out the terms of the loans, the years of the loans. The solicitor's office came back with an opinion, yes, you do. So you have this ordinance. It was sort of late in the game. It was almost an accidental fine that we remembered that ordinance was out there, so we just didn't pick it up until it was late in the game. We asked for an LSR, and then we got the answer.
Okay, so if Bill 86 does not pass tonight, then what happens?
I think you need to ask the solicitor's office that question, and I would assume, like the mayor said, that he's gonna have to find money in the general fund budget to pay back the solid waste fund.
And we have the solicitor right here.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Yeah, we need some clarification on this.
I apologize. Can I have your question again?
Yes, Bill 86, we're voting on this, and we would like to know what happened if Bill 86 does not pass.
Bill 86 is to defer the payment on loan from the solid waste fund that was done for the 2016 budget. If it doesn't pass through council, the amendment of the original ordinance, as you see here, then the money to repay the loan will need to be bounced from some other sources.
He's also proposing an MOU.
An MOU?
Ms. Ruth, the mayor proposed that council and the administration sign an MOU stating that this is, amongst the 8 of us, this is a one-time occurrence, and that council nor the administration would want to reenact that. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. One time, not that it becomes a pattern, out the next year or 2 years from now, somebody else is here and saying, postpone. One time.
If the council and the administration can agree on whatever terms they want and formalize those in a memorandum of understanding, if that's what they chose to do, for a one-time occurrence, that's certainly.
And that was a separate issue from voting for the bill. That was the mayor's suggestion to make support of this bill more palatable so that we would not have to take $643,000 out of the unencumbered balance, which is at a perilously low rate. So that was the reason for that.
Just clarification on that. It doesn't really have to be taken out of the unencumbered balance. It could be taken out of anything, anywhere in the budget, right?
Yes.
Yes, that just would be the most logical place to take it from.
I just wanted to make sure that.
Yes, no, it's a fair point, Mr. Greedy.
So, what we're doing, we're actually just recommending this to council, it's a committee meeting, we're recommending to full council, so.
So we
like
don't have to vote to vote on this?
We make a vote to recommend it to full council. So I'm gonna ask, anybody like to, make a vote, make a recommendation, so they move forward favorably or unfavorably, table it.
recognized. Get up, stand up.
We already, you. Okay, if you wanna talk now, you can come up. I thought everybody's spoken already, but.
Okay, one of the words was imperialist, and MOUs. Can someone explain how good they are, what obligation the public has, because MOUs by previous administrations were put in and no one knew about it, and the history tells us in the water and sewer deal, they had MOUs in there that no one knew. And going back to the understanding of proprietary funds, when this council, whose members aren't here, but are also legislators in the state, took money out of the proprietary fund, which was the water and sewer fund, and used it into the regular budget. And then, when the deal was being made, in the history of the water and sewer, $4.5 million was supposed to be a royalty fee, because that's what the city was taking out of the water and sewer budget to use for balancing the budget. Now it's down to a meager 500,000 donation that the ratepayers have to pay, and that's the type of situation we're in now. Another way where we have another fund that we can take the money out, when 3 years ago, they wanted to raise that fund up to 390 and have the people pay more. Was that the initial plan by that administration, that, oh, we'll build it up and then we'll call it a fund, and then we'll change it. We won't call it the lockbox because we don't want the money locked up. Then we'll call it the stabilization fund, and then we'll call it the loan fund, and then we'll call it something else. How many changes can you make under a memorandum of understanding that the citizens don't get a break? There's something wrong here. If it's not gonna be a legal binding document that somebody goes to jail for malfeasance in office or dereliction of duty for not protecting the public, you guys gotta make sure that doesn't happen.
Good.
There's no credit, there's no blame, it's protecting the public.
Thank you, Mr. Tinkerman,
Hello,
say your name and address, please.
my name is Catherine Wolford. I've lived in Allentown since approximately 1975. I owned my property on 429 Ridge Avenue since my son Jonathan was 2, that'd be 32 years. Now, as of a last second chance saloon, 27%. Sorry to stray from your other issue, but I don't understand why you borrowed the money in the damn first place for over the water. That's ridiculous too. Anyway, so, all right, here I am, senior citizen.
I'm sorry, are you speaking about this bill 86, madam?
I thought we were having a meeting at 7.
We are having a meeting, we're a little late
Okay,
in
are
the
we
meeting.
still on that other subject?
Yes, so if you can wait a little bit, and.
It's
we're gonna
hard
start as
to
soon as we
hold my
finish this.
horses with this one.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else in regards to, bill 86? If not, like to hear a recommendation from the, committee, what to do moving forward, February or not, or, table it, it's up to you. Yeah, so we're looking for.
I'll make a motion to move this favorably with the understanding that we do fill out and sign an MOU, both council and the administration. And it makes a little difference, this is either getting paid back at the end of this year, during the year, or by all means, by the 1st of 2019. Under those circumstances, I will make a motion to move it.
2 weeks.
Yeah, so.
You meant 2020.
2020.
20, I'm sorry.
We delayed it for 2019.
1st of 2020.
Okay, you're saying at the beginning of 2020, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Walter, you go along with that or not?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor, please reply by saying aye.
Aye.
I would say aye, just so we can discuss it at the regular meeting. So let's move forward. Then we still have a little bit more. So Mr. Harsel, let's say, is not here. We'll be discussing this at the regular meeting, by the way, the 86. Go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, Mr. Hartzell just asked that in his absence, that he please be given the opportunity to answer any of your questions upon his return beginning of next year.
Thank you.
He'll be back in the office on January 2nd.
So, what we have is basically the budget and finance report. To roost through it, I have some questions, but I have to wait until he comes back. So, does anybody have any question in the dais? Any comments?
If you would like to forward any questions to me, I can make sure that he has them first thing upon his return.
And then, by the way, this is the November, we don't have December yet, so this is the November budget and finance. Anybody from the public? On the budget and finance? If not, moving forward, we don't have to do it, so it's good. So, that is the end of this committee meeting. The meeting is adjourned, and we can start the regular council meeting as soon as the president is ready.
Waiting for you, Mr. Green.
No, I think we can move forward.
Begin now?
Okay, we're gonna call the council meeting to order. Please stand for the invocation by Councilman Zuko, and remain standing for the pledge of the flag.
I think it's very important that we think about next week. I know you should never look into the future, but you know, there's a word before Christmas that says Merry. Well, if you think about it and look around, there's a lot of people that are homeless, people that are hungry. Not everyone will wake up with a Christmas tree and bright lights, or Christmas gifts fancily wrapped, or a hot meal for that matter. So when you wake up next Tuesday, be thankful for what you got, and remember those that don't have anything. And if you see some poor guy walking down the street, offer him to buy him a meal. Okay, President.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, Mr. Hanlon. I think everybody is here. Okay, we're gonna open up for courtesy of the floor, but before we do, Councilperson Appa is going to read the rules of the courtesy of the floor. We're not gonna have personal attacks. Comments will be addressed to council. If there's a question, we'll get you that answer from the administration if need be. But again, it'll be addressed to council with no personal attacks. So go ahead.
I'm going to read this before every council meeting because I think it's necessary for anybody, any newcomers who want to address council, or for those that have been here and forgot how to follow the rules. When given the floor, please go to the podium, state your name and address. All remarks must be directed toward the presiding officer or council as a body, not a particular council member or elected official, the audience, or city staff. Unless otherwise determined, individuals shall have 3 minutes to address council, and individuals representing a bona fide group shall have 5 minutes. Privilege of the floor will not be extended for personal insults or personal attacks on any individual, name-calling, or other behavior that is inconsistent with the purpose and intent of conducting official business. Please address council as a body. Refrain from using offensive language, cursing, and making noises while other people are speaking. Act with decorum. Please remove your hat and cell phones off. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now we're opening it up to courtesy of the floor. Now's your chance.
Okey dokey. Good evening, my name is Catherine Wolford. I reside at 1400 Avenue for the past 32 many years. My question is, now that a lot of the city's people are senior citizens, how on Social Security, and I know mine is just barely over $1,000 a month. I might be one of the people that you buy a meal for next year. I might be homeless. All of my neighbors might be homeless. This is too much too soon. 27%. So instead of just coming up here and complaining, I have an idea that I think will help stretch our money around the calendar. Instead of these 4 installments per year that we have to timeshare pay our money in for our taxes, because I know I struggle each quarter to get that money in on time, so I'm not penalized. It's a little higher if you don't pay it all at once. However, how about this idea? Since we're so money poor, to take what, that 27%, there's nothing we can do it, I guess it's written in stone now. If we took that 27% and stretched it out for a period of 1 full year, 12 increments, to just help us get that 27% in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, it's almost $500 extra. It's phenomenal for me to come up with that kind of money, lickety-split. If somehow, some way, you could just rewrite your rules to accommodate us who are gonna be hurting, or you're gonna have an exodus of people who won't be able to pay you anything. Do understand that. You're gonna make it so senior citizens won't be able to stay in their homes. They won't financially be able to fund the taxes. So if you take that money, and instead of the 4 times a year to get it into you, take it 12 times. Give it to us every month, a little bit every month, to chop that 27% down. That's my idea. That will work for me, because I'm not going anywhere. You can try to get me out of my house, but I've lived there too long. The riverfront's coming up, and I'm gonna be a cash cow one day when the riverfront comes forward. I have a beautiful home, happens to be in a bad neighborhood, but that too can change. So this is my idea. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lou Hirschman, 405 North Plymouth Street, Downtown, Pennsylvania. Merry Christmas to the City Council and everyone in the audience, and I hope next year we have a Happy New Year. As you heard, I'm going to speak on the 27% tax increase. I'm going to be speaking on it also, because you're going to see the editor, he references 27% increase, and I have had a lot of people this past few days, also the 27% tax increase. I think it's certainly, when I served on city council, I looked at a default budget versus an adopted budget. Since this was not an adopted budget, I was looking for precedent. I was talking to a solicitor years ago and on the city council as a precedent, and it's a default budget. Since it was not an adopted budget, the city council can then open the proposed budget anytime December 31st. The solicitor told me there's no precedent, so council can do anything they want. They can reopen the budget and make any changes because this is a default budget. The mayor did not sign the default budget. In other words, it was a veto. What happens, a veto takes place automatically. So in other words, what I'm saying, city council can, I don't know how solicitor rule is try to reopen the budget. If not, I'm prepared under city charter, section 1010, to get signatures in a petition which is allowed, which reads as follows. I'm going to ask an item to be placed on the council agenda for the discussion, consideration that the mayor should reopen the budget and work with you guys, with work city council, I should say, work with city council to reduce the budget and the tax rate. So I'm hoping, Mr. Chairman, that the mayor and you guys can get along before December 31st and call a special meeting because you guys came in at midnight. I fell asleep watching TV. So I'm asking you guys if you can get together and the mayor to work to reduce this budget, mayor. I know you have a lot of friends out there, and I hear from your friends, they ask me what's wrong with Ray. I shouldn't say, what happened what's wrong with Ray? But I said, call him up, talk to Ray, because he said, we're not for a 27% tax increase. I don't think many people in the community are for a 27% tax increase. And I think Mrs. Laura came to me, she said, you talked to a lot of people last week that gave the same message. And so if you guys can get together with the mayor, I'm prepared to present a petition which has council and speak on the 2019 budget and find ways to reduce the 27% tax increase. And I hope the mayor works with you guys. Thank you. Maybe the mayor could speak to that. Reopen it.
No comment, Mr. Hersham. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christmas.
Ken Heppentrager, East Side, Allentown, I represent the Allentown Tennis Association. About 7 years ago, was the first time we came in here. Mr. Garidi, you're the only one left up here that was here since the first time we showed up. And then shortly after that, we took on the issue of blight. And at the time, 4 years ago, we did a blight count because the mayor stated that there was about 100 residential properties blighted. Of course, we went block by block by block. We walked every single block of Center City. 10th Ward alone has over 100. Now, there has been some improvement over the years. I have noticed the first bit, shockingly, the 8th and 14th wards have all improved, but not the 10th. It continues to just get worse in the 10th ward. I hope the new administration here starts really focusing on it. I bet you, I can imagine the numbers at this point, but the illegal dumping continues. Most of the alleyways there have no parking signs. There's parking all day, all night, wherever anybody feels like it's there. It's like, I do know the crime has gone down a bit. Alls Lakeland seems to have done a decent job of increasing the patrols through there. I see more police through there, but still, for the rest of it, it's a god-awful section to live in. It is, it's horrible. Every single block is trashed. You cannot go a single block in the 10th ward without coming across not one, but at least 2 or 3 blighted homes on that. Usually they're clustered together. Washington Street is like the new Desolation Row. It's lined with houses that are tagged. Tags are missing because some of our wonderful landlords like to take them off. I don't know what they're pulling. And specifically, 726 North Penn. Could we just like put a big gate up around the whole property and build a guide and build every day for a rent fence? Because we have called in over 70 times on this property. 50 of it for dumping, 20 of it for being broken into. This guy keeps playing games with the city, the city needs to find a way. Richard G. Rudolph Jr., who lives in Schnecksville, because that way you don't have to look at it. You Google it, and you can see the roof is caved in. I don't even understand how the house next to it can possibly be living there. Seriously, I don't get it. You look up through the window, and that roof is completely down up against the next home. And them people aren't too clean either, but, you know, there's a guy that lives on Fifth Street, which is directly behind that, and he's lived there now for 45 years. And, you know, he's done. He says he's done trying to talk to the city about it. He has to look at this monstrosity all the time. There's garbage is constantly dumped there, but that's not the only spot. This is what happened all over the 10th Ward. Something seems to have stopped a great deal all over the place. There's been a lot of cleanups everywhere. The city is fast on it. We don't know if they're fast on this place because it's dumped on so often. Down in the block there on Meadow and Green, whatever that company used to be, some produce company, they got a tractor trailer there, and they figured out that unless you're walking across the bridge, you can't see a damn thing, so they dump. It's going down into the Jordan Creek. I called it in, I don't know how many times, I've taken pictures, it's not getting any better, and you can see debris is now in the Jordan Creek. So maybe we can get like the DEP on them. Let's get this bigger government agency on them then, if they don't want to play with the game. I was talking about that property, go buy a dumpster, like everybody else is doing. It's just ridiculous. The last thing I want to go on to is, we brought it up a couple of years ago, and we're really gonna push hard this year, and you're gonna get sick and tired of hearing it. I got all your emails, so you're all gonna get the information. The point system to add, you can't do anything with a 5-year plan. The 5-year cycle we have now has to stay. You realize we actually now looked at the top 600 cities in America. We're the only ones that have a 5-year cycle. That's why these properties go blighted. People buy the property cheap, they think I'm gonna make a fortune out of it. 5 years goes by, they don't realize how much damage has gone to a property, and they get tagged unfit. We had talked to Kathy, I'm gonna go half a minute over. Kathy Zier, Operations Officer, Building Standards of Minneapolis. We talked to her about the point system. They did the same thing. The point system was added to the original system to go after the slumlords, these out-of-state guys. And they had about 25,000 rentals. They said compliance has greatly increased, and the number of tagged properties has diminished every single year since they've done it. They've been doing it 4 years. Hopkins, Minnesota, Chris Kearney is in charge of code enforcement. They're much smaller, but they've had it in place since 2008. They've actually scrapped the original system and have just the point system. 5,500 units, 97% compliant right now. In the beginning, it was at 60, he said. 60%. They had no negative effect on it. Property values throughout the city have increased. I had information on St. Paul and Dearborn, but I lost those emails. But you know, the 27% tax increase that we talked about, remember one thing. She stated that she believes it to be about $500 more. So, if a landlord has a property, it's gonna be $500 more. You think he's just gonna hand out like a $20 each rental going up to cover each month? No. What he's gonna do is, everybody's gonna be charged another $100 a month, and the landlords are gonna make money off of this. They're gonna feed off this more. That's why we need to get on the blighted properties, we need to get on these buildings, the code enforcement, please help our funding more. And one last thing, the 10th Ward North Neighborhood Association will be meeting on January 21st, the first time in like 5 months, we'll be launching it, 7 p.m. Obviously, you're all invited if you can show up there. The Alternative Gallery, we're gonna try to get as many citizens out, and they would like to see that somebody in the city actually cares that they exist, and it's not been annexed to Whitehall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hanlon, you got that date down and the location?
Mr. President, I just had something that in response to what Mr. Heffentrager said. 2 things. First of all, Mr. McMahon, could you verify with Mr. Leitner, if I'm not mistaken, I think 726 North Penn is being looked at by the Redevelopment Authority for acquisition. If we could just confirm that and get that information to Mr. Heffentrager, first of all. And secondly, the point system, Ken, is something I've talked about with Mr. Leitner. there is a desire to move forward on it. This is something that I think needs to be a priority in the first few months of this year. And it's something that we will see some movement on, and I'd like to have you and the tenant association included in that, because I know you guys have done a lot of research on it. So thank you for bringing that up, but there is going to be some movement on it this coming year. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson. Anybody else from the public?
I heard one of the council persons give a list of things that they would like to have done, and I would also like to add to that list and make sure it's voted on, that I be taken off the spam block to the council members, because I'm having a problem with communicating with council, simply that I don't have to get up and talk, I can send a message. Now I have 5 people that reply to my request, and I was wondering if I'm out of order for saying that I should be taken off spam.
If anybody has them on spam, take them off. Because you're not on spam on my computer. No. Okay, anybody else from the public? All right, seeing nobody. Approval of minutes.
I comment then.
Yep. Works for me. Thank you. Any old business?
Mr. President, may I be here?
Sure.
The common consent rule, each should be voted on independently by council to approve.
We'll do that. You want to call it, Mr. O'Connell?
Okay.
Yep.
On the.
Approval of minutes.
Approval of minutes. The first set of minutes is November 7th. Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Okay. The November 7th contract meeting. Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy. November 21st contract approval meeting. Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Mr. President, all the minutes are approved.
Thank you very much. Any old business? Seeing none. Any communications? Seeing none of those either. Reports from committees, budget and finance, Mr. Greedy.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Budget and Finance Committee met this evening. We have one bill on the agenda, Bill 86, we'll be discussing. And we also have a scheduled meeting for the second on the agenda, but I think we're going to have it on the 16th. If we can, if you allow that. Instead of the second, put it on the 16th.
Sure. Fine. You're just talking about the budget and finance meeting, or you're
Right
talking
now,
about
just-
the total reorganization?
No, just the Budget and Finance meeting. We can do the reorganization if you like to, but I can do that.
Okay.
You want to do the reorganization on the 16th as well?
You want to move everything to the 16th, that's fine?
Yeah, that'll be fine for me.
So you're not gonna be here on this?
I'm not gonna be on the second.
Neither will I.
Okay, let's move on to the 16th then.
Yeah.
So I make a motion that we move for the 16th. We have to suspend the rule to do that?
Friends looking at.
We don't have the past though.
You have to, council would, need to suspend Rule 1, Part B for the organizational meeting. The rule states on the first Monday of January of every year, the organization takes place. So if council is in agreement to suspend the rule for having it the first day of business in January, then we can move.
So I'll make a motion that we move it. I mean, I will suspend the rules so we can move the reorganization meeting for the 16th instead of the second.
Just a minute, Mr. Green, before we do that, just a point of order. Ms. Ruth, did you say that it's, by the rules, it's the first Monday of every month? Of January? That's it. Excuse me, I apologize. In that case, it would be January 7th, not January 2nd.
That's only in the case when there's.
Of the election. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I apologize, Mr. Greedy.
That's fine.
I'll second your,
All right, great, thank you.
the 16th instead of the 2nd.
So you're still having a meeting though on the second?
Correct, and we still need to, we're suspending the rules for that, just to move it to the 16th, correct?
Good.
Yep, great.
So, do we make a motion? then?
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we,
You're right.
We need to vote on suspending the
We did
rules.
suspend the rules, yeah, we need to vote on.
oh, the suspension, yeah, sorry.
Okay, motion to suspend the rules and
I'm sorry,
to,
do we have to ask the, no, not for the suspension of the rules, right? No.
okay, a motion to suspend the rules and to change the reorganization meeting to the 16th rather than the 2nd. That means the election of officers will take place on the 16th.
And Ms. Fruith, we can do that as one motion. We don't need to suspend the rules, then vote to move the meeting, correct?
A two-part process.
So we do need to do it as a two-part process. Okay, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. We had some confusion last week about that.
Okay, a motion then just to suspend the rule that tells you when you need to have your reorganization. Ms. Appa?
Okay.
Mr. Greedy?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
7 yeas and no nays. So the second part of that motion is to do the reorganization on January 16th. Mr. Greedy?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Ms. Appa?
Yes.
President, 7 yeas and no nays.
Okay, thank you. That takes care of the budget and finance report and a few other things.
Well, the budget and finance report, we didn't have to suspend the rules to that, you can just agree to it.
Yeah, you already,
Yeah.
already did that though.
Okay, good.
All right, community and economic development, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have not met since the last council meeting. However, we do have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday, January 2nd at 5:30, which will happen, to review a bill introduced this evening and also to view a presentation from Scott Unger, the Executive Director of the Allentown Economic Development Corporation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Human Resources Administration and Appointments, Ms. Affa, I think you have a correction to make.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. It says here that we met this evening. I don't remember it. I'm old. We have, so, but we have no future meetings scheduled.
Thank you very much. Parks and Recreation, Ms. Moda.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has not met since the last council meeting. The next meeting will take place prior to the council meeting on January 2nd.
Thank you very much. Public Safety, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has not met since last meeting. No future meetings are scheduled at this time.
Thank you very much. Public Works, Mr. Zugal.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has not met since the last council meeting. The next meeting will take place prior to the council meeting on January 2nd.
Thank you very much. Rules Chambers Intergovernmental Relations and Strategy has not met since the last meeting, and no future meetings are planned at this time. I don't know why I thought Mr. Glazier said he was going to be here tonight. Maybe I had it confused with Saturday night, but I think he's
He said he
celebrating.
was not going to be here tonight because he's picking his son up from the airport.
Okay. That's an allowable absence, so, that's right, that's right, because I did say we would call him and he could give us a report over the phone. But we'll pass that, administration.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Now we have some appointments. Maybe that's what the confusion was, so Ms. Alpha, it's yours.
We do have several appointments, Mr. President, thank you. These are HARP appointments, extended to January 7th, 2022. Are we gonna vote individually?
One at a time. Yeah.
Yes, okay. The first is Daniel Sell, who is the building inspector. Do you have any comments from my colleagues on Daniel Sell? Anything from the public? You come up here, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not real well versed on how you have your meetings, but is this in reference to the last question you asked?
Yeah, these are appointments for HARP.
There's boards and commissions that the city has that get appointments. These are,
This is.
Okay,
It's appointments.
because I had another question about the tax raise,
Yeah.
but I have to wait for that.
yes,
That one's done.
Yes.
I can't ask questions about that anymore. Okay, thank you.
All right. Daniel Sell, no comment on it. Mr. Hamlin?
Okay, on Dan Sell to Harb, Ms. Appa,
Yes?
Mr. Greedy,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
yes.
Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
and Mr. Dugal.
Yes.
And I guess-
All right, do we want to wait to ask anybody to come up after they're all appointed, or one at a time? Okay. The next one we'll go to is Paul Renault, real estate broker. Any comments from my colleagues? Seeing none? Anything from the public? Seeing none. Okay, well, Mr. Hunt.
Okay, on the reappointment of Mr. Renault to the board as the real estate broker. Mr. Greedy,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Zuko,
Yes.
Ms. Apple.
Yes.
Very good, 78, your name.
Right, the next one is Patricia Jackson, a reappointment for her also. Any comments from my colleagues? Anything from the public? Take the vote, Mr. Hamlin.
Okay, on Ms. Jackson, Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Ms. Apple,
Yes.
Greedy.
Yes.
Very good, 78 and your names.
All right, and last one for our reappointments of Shane Thelman. Do I have any comments from my colleagues? Seeing none? Anybody from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Hanlon, a vote,
On
please.
the appointment of Mr. Billman, Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Zuko,
Yes.
Ms. Apple,
Yes.
Mr. Greedy,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Very good, 78 and your names.
All right, is anyone here from the HARB reappointment? And are you here? And if you would like to come up and speak, I see Mr. Feldman. Good evening.
Shane Philman, 416 North 8th Street. I just want to thank you for your time and consideration, and I appreciate you reappointing me, and I do enjoy volunteering and helping the city and doing what I can, so I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there anyone else from HARB? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the Trojans Examining Board reappointment. This will go to 4/18/2020. Clive Levy, he is, this is for the Electrician Examining Board. A reappointment for Clive Levy. Do I have any comments from my colleagues?
Ms. Chairman, I just want to, in the interest of full disclosure, Mr. Levy does electrical work for Stephanie and I at our home. Just in the interest of full disclosure, I wanted to let the council and the public know that prior to the vote.
Very good. Anything from the public? Seeing none, could we have a vote? We have a vote, is Mr. Levy here?
The
I'm
appointment
going to
of,
vote first.
on the appointment of Mr. Levy to the Electricians Examining Board, Ms. Mota,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Zuko,
Yes.
Zappa,
Yes?
Mr. Greedy,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
I was waiting to hear what Courtney's vote was, because it was no. No, I'm a yes, that's just, yeah.
A resounding yes.
That's a good one.
All right, are you here, Mr. Levy? You want to come up, please? Levy, I'm sorry, is it pronounced Levy? Levy. Yes. That's right the first time.
You need some work from me too. I guess I gotta disclose, I think you did some work for me one time.
I was
Everybody's house should.
I was gonna say, I don't know if this is a disclosure, but he's my neighbor, so.
My principal, I know.
There are there aren't many people in Allentown that he did not teach or was principal at it. So,
I just want to say thank you for reappointing me. I look forward to the next 2 years. Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, and this is for the Health Board. Kevin Radlick? Appointment to 1/1/2024. Do I have any comments from my colleagues? Does anybody know this man?
Is it pronounced Brablick or Radlick?
Radlick.
Long A, short I.
Long A?
Long A and a short I. Great.
All right. Anything from the public aside from pronouncing his name?
Okay, on the appointment of Mr. Favorite. Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Kappa?
Yes.
Mr. Greedy?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Next, we have, a little confusing here, I have for the zoning board, I have two names with them underneath each other. This is Robert Nauer and Alan.
Madam Chair, I believe that the gentleman that we just voted on is in the audience.
Pardon me?
The gentleman that we just voted on for the Health Board, I believe he is in the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, I'm sorry, would you like to come up, sir? And then you can pronounce your name. Jai.
Thank you. Happy holidays. I think the only two that were here when I was appointed first were Mr. Greedy and Mr. Hendricks. And I've had a good 4 years with Vicki Kistler. I look forward to being reappointed, working with her again for another 4 years, trying to keep the city healthy and move our city forward. So thank you again.
Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Pronounce your name again?
Vrablik.
I said it right.
The same V, it's a long A and a short I, it's Slovak, so it's tough.
I will have some of my friends.
All right, thank you.
Do you have to inspect my bar?
Not me personally.
Now here's where I'm a little confused here. I have two names, so I guess there's two of them for zoning board. Robert Knauer? Yeah, that was pronounced, okay. 1/3/23, and also, let's see, they have two different, it's the same thing, zoning board, and Alan Zallinger. But we'll start with Mr. Knauer. His term is up 2023. Do I have anything from my colleagues?
Since we're having true confessions tonight, I know Mr. Mauer for many, many years. So just throwing it out there.
Okay, anybody from the public? Did you have him in school, Mayor?
I had his two children.
Only kid.
I had his two children in school.
All right, can I have a vote?
Mr. Zokoy on Mr. Nauer. Ms. Appa?
Yes.
Mr. Greedy?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
We're at 7 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, is he here?
Yes.
Here.
Good evening.
Good evening, and my name is pronounced Knauer.
Canal, all right.
Purpose for every letter there. Thank you for vote of confidence. As you know, I've been on the board for a little over 2 years, and it really is a very conscientious body, very deliberative, and does its absolute best to do the right thing, all things considered. Unfortunately, everybody that comes before us doesn't leave happy, but that can't be avoided. So, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Congratulations. All right, the next one is Alan Zallinger. Zallinger. Did I say Zallinger? No.
Salinger.
No, all right. Alan Salinger, he is also until 2023. Do I have any comments from my colleagues on Mr. Salinger?
I would just comment that he is uniquely qualified for this position, and I highly recommend him.
I'd like to make a comment as well. I've known Alan for a very, very long time, and he might have been in school with Mr. O'Connor.
But he is my daughter's neighbor.
Mr. Tyler was zoning, no, you were in planning, great planner, and he's also was involved with the media in doing the accounts for the census in, like, was it 2000?
2010.
2010?
2000.
2000, yeah. And we did a great job, by the way, because we actually beat Erie. We were trying to get the third largest city in the state, and it was a great, great job, and I'd like to see if we can do that there then. So, that's it. So you want to-
Alan, I believe you told me that you guys did a great job in spite of having Julio help.
You know what happened when I'm involved, right?
I couldn't resist.
All right, any other comments from my colleagues?
Okay, on the appointment of Mr. Salinger, Mr. Greedy,
Sure, yes.
Mr. Hendrick,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Absolutely.
Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. Zappa.
Yes.
President City News.
Would you like to come up and speak, Mr. Zallinger? Ballinger, I said Salinger, last time I did say.
Obviously,
Yes, obviously, yes, Salinger.
obviously you're the reader of The Catcher in the Rye.
My vote is no.
Good job.
In spite of knowing me, have voted for me, so I don't know what that says. It's an honor to be asked, and it's an honor to serve. The people that I've served with, I'm very impressed with. I've learned a great deal. I've really put myself into it. I enjoy it. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's the end of that, Mr. President.
We're now leaving the twilight zone and returning control back to me.
Mr. President.
Mr. Mayor.
Can I interject? We just, Kathy Walford, I think we just helped her out. We didn't do it, I mean, but, and she's happy. Well, not happy. We'll never be happy with it. But what we did, we pulled up her address, okay? And we brought her up, she'll be paying, no, nobody likes to pay more. She'll be paying at her 429 Ridge Avenue, $78 per year more, okay? So, I mean, I know it's not, you know, but we helped her out. I mean, we didn't help her out, like giving her a break, that's what her
No.
excess value.
I thought it was all the taxes times 27%, and I freaked.
Oh, no. No. And if you ever have any questions, just, you call us, because.
That's why I said $500.
Yeah,
'cause-
well, we worry about city tax.
That's
We can't
what
get
I
the county
thought it
on the sewer
was.
street.
Right.
Did you see I was gonna have a stroke?
Okay.
Okay.
School
taxes will go up.
Mr. President, if I could just ask a question of you, Mayor, is it possible perhaps, and we might have this function and I just don't know it, and if we do, I apologize, would it be possible to have a function of the website where people can find out the exact what their taxes were previously and what the increase is going to be, so that maybe we can give them a tool to avoid confusion like that, because I have also had a few people come to me thinking that it was the total tax bill as opposed to just the city tax bill that was going up.
Yeah, I think we could do that, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we pulled it up in, Cassie pulled it up in about, you know, Trish helped, we pulled it up in about 30
Yeah, I'm not
seconds.
sure if it's something that would be technologically difficult to do or something we could easily add to the
We'll
website for people.
What suggestion, we'll pursue it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, Trish, go ahead, Trish. Here you go.
So I know that on the county's website, residents can look at what their assessed value is, and I'm pretty sure the county uses the millage rates from each arm of government that taxes you locally. So they can check their assessed value. They can also see on the county what the tax consequence is. But as far as being able to access that same information from the city's website, I'm sure it would be simple to put a link to the county's website, but whether or not we can use the data that's built in our system and find a way to put that on the website is definitely a question for Matt and IT. I'm not exactly sure what's involved there.
Okay, and if, maybe, Mr. Mayor, at the very least, if we could put that link up to there so that people would have an understanding, perhaps Mr. Hartsold's analysis of an average home of this class will pay this much more that he gave us a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, the full classifications.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good idea.
Yep. Okay, Mr. Hanlon, we're moving on to ordinances for final passage passage. Bill 86, please.
Bill 86 is a ordinance relating to the 2016 loan from the city's solid waste fund to the city's general fund, authorizing revision in the loan's repayment schedule back to the solid waste fund by postponing next year's payment.
Okay, we had some discussion on that bill earlier, Mr. Garidi. Anything you want to add, or anybody else from council? We'll start with you.
It was something that was a little confusing for the beginning, but we decided that we move it forward favorably. However, in light of knowing that amount can actually be extracted from anywhere pretty much in the budget, if the mayor wants to, it's up to council to vote yea or nay. The mayor will have to reduce that budget if it doesn't pass. And the proposal was obviously to get an MOU that would have to be paid by the beginning of January of 2020. And you didn't give it an exact date, you just said the beginning of the, yeah. January 1st?
Did you say January?
Okay. So, January 1st?
Yep, okay, so I'm sorry, Madam Solicitor, but I'm gonna throw another question at you here. It was forwarded favorably to council with the addendum that the money, there's an MOU and the money is paid by January of 2020.
30th of 2020.
2020. Do we need to do that amendment first and then?
Yes,
Well, before we do that, I'd like to ask the mayor if he commits to that. He's, it's an MOU between.
He suggested it, I hope he would agree
No,
with
he
it.
didn't suggest the date, he suggested an MOU.
Also, didn't we say that we were gonna add,
Where the money's gonna come from?
where the money was gonna come from, or at least an idea?
Well, that was as part of, what, that was not so much part of what Mr. Hendricks, I guess we're now going to turn it into an amendment was, but it was more along the lines of, as part of the MOU, that there would be sort of a classification as to if the money was going to come from the unappropriated balance, if the money was going to come from cuts to programs, or where we would delineate that the money would be coming from.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that would need to be an actual amendment, the way Mr. Hendricks is proposing, that we create this MOU and that we have a payment date of January 30th, 2020 of when the payments start again, that it has to be by January 30th that the administration pays the solid waste fund back in total. I don't think we need to add the sort of the financial planning aspect of the MOU to that. It's included in what we do with the MOU.
Okay.
If that would make sense to you as well, Mr. Hendricks, since it's your amendment.
It would. I don't need to have that classification, just so that it's done by the 30th of the following year, 2020.
The mayor acknowledged that he will be.
January 30th, 2020, absolutely.
January 1st is a little difficult.
No, it's
We all
right
try.
into holiday.
Nobody's here.
If you can't make the meeting the second, you're not gonna make the meeting the first.
Definitely not.
Yeah, January 30th, 2020. And Mr. with all due respect, it would be a legal binding document, okay, through your department, because we said we don't want to make it a pattern.
Yes.
Okay.
So no one else would pay, you have to be paid by the 27th of February.
That's the wish of council.
Well, well, we owe that year, yeah. Not
Yeah, what I'm saying.
the whole package, we owe that year.
But we move up, you have to be paid like.
$642,857.
Right, the total amount has to be paid by the 2027, is it?
2023, 24 now.
24.
And that's in the ordinance itself, Mr. Green.
Oh, okay.
That is in the ordinance, the new schedule ordinance.
All right, good.
Okay, so, now we have to,
I will second Mr. Hendricks' motion, as stated.
So I think Mr. Hendricks wants to add a section to the ordinance that basically says that the administration shall pay back to the solid waste fund $642,857 by the end of January 2020.
January 30th, why don't you just do January 30th, in that way, we have a real date.
January 30th.
Can we make a comment?
Well, yeah, before the votes.
Before you vote.
But we didn't vote yet.
Yeah, but before, I'd like to say something.
You get your chance.
It seems like you're gonna.
We're doing a little housekeeping here. Okay, you've got, that's the amendment.
Yeah.
Okay. Any comment from council? Any other comment from council on the amendment? Seeing nobody. Now, the public.
Okay. Glenn Hunsicker. I have a hard time understanding the logic behind this, because normally they don't pay this until July or August of next year. This year they paid August in the 18, the 640. You're gonna, you go through all this, and now he has to pay in January of next year when you have no money at the end of the year, and you're gonna come up with 643,000. Does that mean then in August of 20, he's gonna pay again? Or is that for another year? Are you changing the whole pay schedule to January?
No, we're not changing the whole thing to January, we're only changing it from this one.
This single,
Yeah.
So next year, then he has to pay in July again. He has to make 2 payments next year.
That's
That's what you're saying.
2020.
2020. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 19. I'm talking 1 year from now. 2020.
2020, you have to make the
He
regular
has to make the
payments.
January payment, plus he has to make a payment in July or August.
I think the ordinance doesn't specify when they have to be paid.
Just in the calendar.
So, yeah, it's within the calendar year, he could pay it on August, September, it doesn't matter to me. As long as he pays it on that year.
So you're saying you pay in December
Yeah.
Yes.
of the following year, not in August?
No, he would have to make a payment. Mr. Hunsicker is saying he has to make a payment in January of 2020, and then has to make another payment before the end of the year.
The end of the year, he's saying August, but he doesn't have to.
Am I correct?
Yeah. Well, normally you were going from July to July, July to July, through the 7-year payment.
Well, that's not correct.
Mark, maybe you can answer.
Yeah, it would just be one payment in 2020. It would not be 2 payments.
So then you'd have 18-month period before you pick it up again. Is that what you're
Oh,
talking
because
about?
it's
21.
it's extending the time.
Right.
Yeah, it's extending the years from 2024 instead of 2023.
Due to when the tax revenues actually start coming in, it is more comfortable for the city's finances to put it more toward April. However, if council and the mayor decide on January 30th, we will make that work.
You have to stay away from January. The city has no money. And he's right, he's perfectly right. You don't want to do that. You're strapping this, not just this, you're talking down the road. You
Well,
don't
they
you don't want to
don't
make
talk
that,
about
if you don't want to
this.
make the payment, don't make the payment. That's what you're saying.
So, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, do you think we can make it on the 30th, or do you think we should move it?
Financially, it's more comfortable for the city to be able to make it in April.
In April?
Mr. Hendricks, would you accept a friendly adjustment to the amendment to make it May 1st?
I have no problem with that.
Thank you. If the record could so show, Mr. Hanlon to change January 30th to May 1st.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now you finally confused me. Congratulations.
That's called payback.
When does the double payment come into effect? The one that's been forgiven,
It's gonna extend 1 more year. The initial ordinance said that you gotta pay everything, this whole $4 million by 2023. So it's gonna be extended to 2024.
so does this make this an illegal budget because of not paying the agreement of the money? And now you're changing all the rules so they don't have to go by the previous agreement of paying their bills.
No, it's not an illegal budget.
Well, they're not paying the money back in the original proposal. Now you're changing the rules so they don't have to. Is that legal or illegal?
I'll let you explain.
I think you read that, Mayor. Did you read that?
Yeah, it's in here. I mean, I have-
Yeah, it's in page 21 of the charter, and it goes 11 and 12, A, B, and C. Has anybody read it besides me?
I read this,
No, not that. I'm talking about what's in the charter that pertain to why we're in this agreement in the first place. Why we let them take money out of a proprietary fund, and now we're changing the rules so they don't have to pay it.
this is a deferral of the payment. The payment is going to be made.
Yeah.
The only difference is the payment that was committed under the original ordinance to be made in 2019. The schedule is being shifted out 1 year, so it will be paid. It's just a matter of when. So all the payments will be made that were committed in the original ordinance. It's just a deferral, a pause on the payments for 2019.
Wouldn't it be better to put that money in an account that drew 2% interest so that it would be easier on the city to pay the money back that's collecting interest, because somehow everything that has finance, either it's in a fund that makes money or it's in a fund that loses money. Why are we in the loan business and then we can't charge the city interest on that money? This goes back to the history of the 205 loan, the lockbox, where the city was getting 3.5% interest on that money. And then all the ordinances changed everything, that now we get nothing. And so this is the same thing. We're starting the road down the drain. If this was anything else but loan from the public, you couldn't get away with this. But because it's the proprietary fund there, now you can make all these changes. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right. And there must be a rule in there. What's the penalty if they don't do it next year? Are we gonna have a meeting just like this?
I mean, you said, you've all said it, and just for clarification, we're deferring it 1 year. We will pay the $642,857, May 1st, 2020, May 1st, 2021, May 1st, 2022, May 1st, 2023, and May 1st, 2024. And that's what the MOU, because, again, I'm repeating it, you don't want to start a pattern. It's one time. It's one time.
What's the penalty?
What's the penalty? What's the penalty if this doesn't happen? Because next year's budget is gonna be up to $1.25 million, just based on the figures this year. So there's not gonna be any money to pay it back next year. So what, are we gonna have a 35% increase in the budget just to pay this back because we're letting it go out? I mean, I go through a red light, there's a penalty. I don't stop at a stop, there's a penalty. There's no penalty here for bad management and poor financial judgment.
If you want to check with our last mayor about that.
Yeah. Okay, we got you, Mr. Hahn. Anybody else from the public? Seeing nobody.
Okay.
This is the amendment, right?
On the amendment, that the administration restore the 642,857 to the solid waste fund by May 1st, 2020. So I'm just got 1 year. Okay. On the amendment, Ms. Appa,
Yes.
Mr. Greedy,
Reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko,
No.
Mr. McLean,
No.
President, 5 yeas and 2 nays.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move to the bill itself as amended. Any comments from council? Any comments from the public? Mr. Hammer?
Okay, on the bill itself as amended, Ms. Appa,
Yes.
Mr. Greedy,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Ms. Moda,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Zuko,
No.
Mr. McLean,
No.
Mr. President, 5 yeas and 2 nays.
All right, thank you. R-136, please.
R-136 authorizes encroachment for a ramp and steps at 520 Hamilton Street. This is before you get to the 1/3 rule.
Okay, Mr. Messinger.
Okay, this is an encroachment for a necessary ramp at 520 Hamilton Street. Basically, there's one step that goes up, but then also there's a ramp for ADA accessible for it. And again, the fact that we had to not approve it was the fact it was more than 1/3 and it had to come to council for approval.
Okay, that's the new building there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anything from council? Anything from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hanlon?
Okay, on the encroachment, Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Zappa.
Yes.
Minutes of the agent remains.
Thank you very much. R137, please.
Our 137 is a sewage planning module for City Center at 7th and Walnut Street. This just indicates that there's capacity.
I'm sorry, Craig, but I gotta go to our sewage expert. That's you.
Yes, they require 32,292 gallons of flow to the plant, and we have capacity.
Thank you very much. Anything from council? Anything from the public on the sewage module? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hanlon?
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. 7 yeas and no nays.
Thank you very much. R138, please.
R138 are certificates of appropriateness for the owners to do work at 302 North 9th Street and 409 North 10th Street.
Okay, Mr. Kimberly.
Good evening. These are certificates of appropriateness for 302 North 9th Street, and that is to install windows in the back and the side that would be appropriate. And HARB voted favorably to advance that for approval. And also 409 North 10th Street, that is actually a lead-based paint project that's being funded by our lead-based paint grant from HUD. That's quite an extensive project. It's removing paint and concealing paint in areas and also replacing windows and things like that. So a rather large project, but but HARB voted favorably to advance that as well for approval.
Okay, just two quick questions from me. We had an issue with the security cameras or something at a property at 9th and Chew. Was that 302?
302 North 9th.
And that was dealt with?
No, actually, that was 245 North 9th Street.
245, okay, I wasn't sure. I
That's
knew it
been
was-
resolved, yes.
I know it was right there at 9th and Chew. And the 409 North 10th with the lead. I think I'm answering my own question, but there's authorized contractors dealing with that.
Oh, yes, oh, yeah, absolutely. The city has lined up contractors who are very well and very good at it, very capable of removing lead paint, yes.
All right.
All the work is to HUD specifications and so forth, yes.
I figured, but I just wanted to double check with you. Thank you very much. Anybody else from council? Anybody from the public?
Just had a quick question. 302 North 9th, is that no longer owned by the Carolys?
No, it's not. It's
Okay.
owned by an LLC.
Okay. I thought that was work out there. Mr. Hammer wasn't really well enough to work on it.
Yeah, no longer owned by.
Okay. Anybody else from the public on R138? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hammond?
Okay, on the certificates of appropriateness, Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
7 yeas and no nays.
Thank you very much. Ordinances for introduction. Bill 87, please.
Bill 87 amends the Building and Housing Code, the International Electrical Code to allow for a one-time exception for non-reciprocating electricians to obtain an electrical permit. It also amends the permit certification of inspection by requiring a qualified person to be present during an electrical inspection.
Okay, any comments from council? Any comments from the public on Bill 87? All right, that will go to Community and Economic Development. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Okay, Bill 88, please.
Bill 88 amends the capital fund budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $80,000 from the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commissions to City of Allentown for the preservation of covered bridge.
Thank you very much. Any comments from council? comments from the public on Bill 88, please?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear him.
Any comments on Bill
I
88?
heard you, but I didn't hear what this other gentleman said.
He read the bill, he'll read it again.
Bill 88 amends the capital fund budgets, provides for supplemental appropriation of $80,000 from the Pennsylvania, as a result of a grant from the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission towards the preservation of Bogart's Covered Bridge.
Which needs to work, can use it.
Where's that
You
at?
get one.
Down the Lehigh Parkway, off of South 24th Street.
Oh,
And I answered that question, but you just can't yell from your seat, okay?
sorry.
All right.
I'm not on this
I know you're
board.
new, we're
All
alive,
right.
so, okay, any comment from the council? Anything from the public?
Clement Zucker, South Allentown. I know this isn't in the budget for 2019 as far as the 5-year plan, but I want to see that go through. I want to see it, but is this 80,000, is that a supplemental from the city in addition to the other people that are putting into this fund? I guess I don't understand what this is gonna do. Is this gonna paint the bridge or what is this?
Yeah, it's for repair and painting the bridge, there is a match requirement.
A match requirement? The city puts in 80 and they put in 80?
Right, so the city is currently going to look for other matching money from outside the
So
city.
you're gonna get try to get some grant money to match the 80?
Yeah,
You don't have that yet?
I don't know, and maybe it can come from the transfer.
When would this be, when would the city have to come up with the 80,000? I guess one somewhere this year, in 2019.
We're trying to,
Thanks,
oh,
Rob.
well, yeah, I usually just a pretty face in the back. We have until 2020 to spend this money, okay, and we're trying to, it is an $80,000 match. What we'd like to do is try to get donations, because we feel it's a fairly important project to the community, and I think we can get some support from various businesses, different people, fundraisers for this project, because it's the only covered bridge left in Allentown, so it's kind of important.
I support you on what you're doing. We were talking about this for years, but what is this, I guess I have to talk to you guys.
It will be on the Parks and Recreation, so I guess that we need to work on this.
Do we know exactly what the 80,000 is gonna be spent for, or is that not
I
important right now?
don't know the exact information.
Mr. Portsmouth puts this up in the summer, with some, financial support.
Right.
This
As
money-
the bridge has been looked at and the scope of work has been determined by whoever that might be, whoever expert that is, but.
I guess I'm trying to get in my mind, is this 80,000 just for painting?
Can I say
or-
something? This has to come in front of the committee. So he's presenting it, and when it comes in front of the committee, we need to talk about it.
What's the purpose of this?
Just introduction.
It's an introduction.
To the committee or to all the whole?
No,
It's
it has to be.
it's gonna be referred to Parks and Recreation.
Mhm.
And since it's on the agenda, we're opening it up to discussion.
When would that be, you think?
The second, January 2nd, so feel free to be here on January 2nd.
I would also just ask, we know the questions that Mr. Hunsicker was asking, which I think are good questions, if we can just make sure that Ms.
And it will be
Elchar has that
answered.
information.
And it will be answered.
My main concern, what we're gonna do with the 80,000 and where was the 80,000 coming? That's what I want. So-
Exactly, so that's what I'm saying, I think we need to have that for
On
January
the
2nd.
second, please come to the committee meeting and we'll have that answer for you. Thank you, sir.
It can potentially come from the Truxton Trust as part of our capital.
Okay, I think part of Mr. Hunsiker's concern is that we're not spending $160,000 for paint.
I think that he has great questions and he will be answered on the second. Thank you, sir.
Okay, anybody else from the public on Bill 88? All right, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Bill 89, please.
Bill 89 amends the 2018 risk fund budget by transferring from the unappropriated balance of the risk fund to cover remaining costs for employee health insurance, and also transfers funds within the 2018 risk fund for the same purpose.
Okay, that's gonna go to Mr. Garidi with any comment from council?
Just a quick comment on it. You see, that was not budgeted in the 2019 budget? I mean, 2020 budget or 2019 budget?
2018.
2018. It was not budgeted in 2018.
We're under budget. It's under budgeted, so we have to balance the budget, and that's why we're bringing this forth to you,
We
because.
don't know how much it is, right?
It's like $584,000 and 700, actually 584,767. More than $500,000.
Yeah. It's a lot of money.
Mhm.
Do you have that money?
Do we have that money? Yes. Yes, we do. I mean, the employee health benefits was severely under budgeted.
So you're gonna take it from the,
Unappropriated balance.
And other sections of the risk management.
Okay.
Partial of each.
Yeah, we don't have that much money there. So. All right, that's it, thank you. We'll discuss it, but.
Yeah, $500,000, I'd say severely. Anybody else from council? Anybody else from the public? Or anybody from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hanlon, we're not going to vote here. Mr. Grady, that's yours. Bill 89. All right, Bill 90.
Bill 90 amends the capital fund by transferring $319,429.99 from the general fund to capital project 1805 emergency water repairs. It is an uncompleted project under the water sewer lease agreement with the LCA.
Okay, it's going to go to Mr. Zukel, but any comments from council? Any comments from the public?
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Resolutions for introduction, we have none. Any new business? Nope, and the election and the election removal of president, vice president, that's just the rule that you published there.
Well, no, I gotta choose the order of the vote. For now, on the 16th. Now you change it to the 16th. So you want me to choose the order right now?
President and vice president?
Yeah.
So you do president first and vice president second?
No, yeah, but
That's,
I thought it was the order of candidates.
Yeah.
That needs to be chosen, Mr. Hanlon, not the order of the offices. The order of the
No,
offices
it's
is
the
not.
order of the vote that should be taken on the 16th.
Okay.
yeah.
Yep, okay.
So for the president, we had, Roger and Darrell. The person that will be voted on first will be Roger, and then Darrell will be second. For the vice president was Candida and Julio. The person that's chosen is Candida first and Julio second.
Okay. Then, anything for good and welfare? Motion to adjourn, have a joyous Christmas, everybody, or whatever your holiday might be. Thank you. Happy New Year.